So welcome, and wonderful to have so many people registered. It's just really great to be able to connect with you. This is my first ever webinar that I've run, so apologies if I mess up technically. Hopefully Craig and I have ironed it all out. Now, because I got 70 people registered, I got a lot of questions. I have organised them in such a way that I think I will get through them all in the 40 minutes. But if I don't worry. I will promise to answer them either via an email afterwards, or I'll record my answer as a podcast, or I might even save it till the next month's webinar if it's not an urgent thing. But I will try to get through everything. So let's first just sort of wave and let me know that you can all hear me and you're all on board. Great. Lovely. Hello, hello. I've had to sort of scroll to see you all. Okay, the other thing is that you can ask questions by scrolling down, clicking on the chat icon, and then typing a question. And I may or may not get to that immediately or later, depending on where I am in terms of answering questions. And finally, you remember that I will record this. So if you miss anything, you can listen, go back, we'll send it to you in the next 48 hours. You can watch over and over again and cover everything. So to that end, we haven't started recording yet. Craig is going to press record, lights, camera, action, just after he says a quick hello to everyone. Over to you, Craig.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming and joining Helena tonight. This is our first webinar, and everybody looks like they're very excited, so that's awesome. So we're going to start recording, and I'll be on mute as well. Enjoy the webinar, and we hope that it goes as smooth as we planned. Enjoy. Over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're recording. So I got the majority of questions I got were along the lines of, and I've got it typed up in the corner of my screen just to make sure I get through all because I couldn't memorize all the questions. How do I stay on track? How do I stop getting stuck? How do I stop the weight creeping back on? How do I not lose focus on health and body fat reduction? And a common theme, so this is like 5 questions I'm going to answer in one. I always feel like I have other more high priority things to do, and my time is a big issue. It seems like unless I get more instant, obvious, quicker results or impacts, then it feels like a waste of time and a waste of effort. So to answer those questions, I need to wind back and ask you to ask yourself 2 questions. And please write down your answers for yourselves as I speak or after this webinar. So the first question to ask yourself is a reminder. What are you trying to achieve? What are the results or the impacts that you are looking for? That's the first question. And of course, body fat reduction is going to feature somewhere in there, but your answer needs to be much bigger than body fat reduction, because that alone is never going to be a big enough motivator for changing long-standing habits or giving up perceived pleasures. So you need to get underneath that and ask yourself why you want to reduce your body fat. Why do you want to lower your cholesterol? Why do you want to make better food choices? And then your answer needs to have 2 equally important parts. The first part is the big picture payoffs, like feeling fabulous, living longer, having more energy, living life to the full, feeling free, or even something specific like wanting to start a family and my excess body fat is interfering with that, or I want to join the police force. So the first thing is, what's the big picture? How will your life improve if you are healthier, if you exercise more, if you don't have to take the medications that you're on? And the second answer needs to be, what are the immediate payoffs of making ongoing healthy choices? Because our brain is wired to focus on immediate gains, not long-term gratification. So it isn't a personal failing when you choose the immediate reward of a Tim Tam versus the delayed reward of not getting diabetes. Our brain is focused on the here and now. And the way to make healthy choices a daily habit, a way of making them a way of life, is 3 steps. As I said, write down your big picture goal, and you might well have done that already, but that's not enough. Secondly, write down the immediate payoffs of making healthy choices every day. And sometimes this is nebulous, and sometimes it's really hard to see immediate payoffs. But for me personally, I know how much better I will operate in that day. I know I will think better, work better, create better, relate better. I'm in a better mood. So because I've been making healthy choices for a long time, I know the consequences of not making those healthy choices. I just don't sleep as well. I don't feel as well. I don't think as well. I don't work as well. But it could even be, I feel really good that I'm making this choice right now, that despite all the temptation out there, I am taking control of my health. So only you can answer that question. What are the immediate payoffs of making healthy choices? And then the next step, bring to mind your dream car or your dream house or your dream boat, some expensive prized possession. Now, if it's a car or a boat, would you put the wrong fuel in? Would you deliberately drive your car into a brick wall? Of course you wouldn't. If it's your house, would you shovel mud onto the carpet? Would you smear dirt over the windows? Would you throw rocks at the mirrors? Yet every time we eat junk, that's what we're doing to our bodies. We're destroying the most valuable thing of all, our body and our brain. And when we make poor health choices, that includes eroding our physical, psychological, and emotional well-being because of the profound effects of food on our mood, plus the guilt, disappointment, self-loathing that comes with knowing that I've just made a poor food choice. So my question is, why can't we view our body as the precious thing that it is? And no one's body is any more or less precious than anyone else's. The human body per se, whoever it belongs to, is precious and wondrous and capable of miraculous feats, as long as we don't keep throwing spanners in the works. So it really requires a mind shift, a values shift. This body of ours is the way we experience life. And the better we look after it, the better we fuel it, move it, rest it, the more wondrous our experience of life. Again, if we bring it back to the car analogy, the better fuel you use, the better quality car it is, the more you look after it. Driving it is a dream. Now, you might not get a kick out of driving a car, but you get the analogy. Your experience of life will go through the roof if you take the best possible care of your body. Now, one of the things that I think the coronavirus has clearly illustrated is that if we don't have our health, we really, really don't have anything. For the first time ever, we've shown that this is the case. The economy has bowed to our health. But wait for this. Last year in the journal Lancet, which is a highly, highly reputable medical journal, researchers looked at people's eating habits across 195 countries to estimate how much poor diet contributed to death rate. And they found that 11 million people die every year around the world because of poor food choices. 11 million. That's way more than the coronavirus is going to take, I hope. So why aren't we jumping up and down about this? Firstly, because it's not in our face. It's not reported. You don't hear reports every day about how many people per day have died because of poor food choices. And secondly, it takes much longer to die from a poor food choice than it does from getting the coronavirus if you get a really severe bout of it. So ultimately, it's because the world values profit over health, unless the threat to our health is immediate and threatens to bring down the health system like the coronavirus. So to recap, the 3 things that will keep you on track, write down the big picture payoffs of looking after your health. Write down the immediate payoffs of making healthy choices, and really try to view your body as the wondrous, amazing possession that it is, and that through it, you can have the most miraculous experience of life. So the next question, by the way, how are we going? Can I have a little show of response? Is this on track to what you wanted to know? Okay, good. The next question is, how do I manage the sense of overwhelm and all the things I need to do? I don't sort of really know what to start. Is it quality of food? Is it quantity of food? Is it exercise? Is it habits? Start by focusing on 2 things. 1, the quality of what you eat, and 2, the quantity of what you eat. And the good news is you only have to focus on the quality. My experience with the hundreds of people I've worked with is the quality of what we eat so very much determines the quantity of what we eat. So the quality is far more important. And what do I mean by quality of food? It's about eating more of the good stuff and eating less of the bad stuff. And by good stuff, I mean things that build up our health, bad stuff, things that erode our health. The elephant in the room is, this is an ideal world. We simply don't eat any processed food. And that sounds really difficult, but it's not. It really becomes a habit. So firstly, let's focus on what we can eat more of, because that's a little less difficult. So what the bottom line, and there was another question which answers this question: what does a plant-based whole food diet mean? Exactly that. Basing your diet on a whole lot of plant foods that have been unprocessed, unrefined, and in their natural state. And it doesn't mean exclusively plants. It means focus on plants more than focus on animal foods. I have no problem with animal products whatsoever. But by far and away, the biggest factor missing from our diets is fiber. Probably centuries ago, you know, cavemen and the real paleo person would have eaten 100 grams of fiber a day. Now, if we tried that now, the average American probably eats 10 to 15 grams of fiber a day, 1/10 of that. The average Australian might get up to 20. Ideally, health recommendations are 30 to 40, which is still only a third of what cavemen used to eat. If we tried 100 grams of fiber today, we would be sitting on the toilet all day because our bodies just are not used to it. But fiber is the magic. If there was a dietary magic bullet, if there was a dietary superfood, it would be fiber. And that is the main thing that is removed from all processed and packaged food. Even if they say added fiber, there are two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. The only type of fiber that's added, and this includes in supplements, is soluble fiber. That's not enough. You need the insoluble fiber as well. What soluble fiber means is the fibers in plants that can absorb water. So things like oats, the flesh of all your fruit and vegetables, they are all soluble fibers. The peel is the insoluble fiber. So this is, you know, the brown rice and the whole wheat and, you know, the stringy parts of celery and asparagus and artichoke. All of those are your insoluble fibers. We need them both for the health of our gut. We need them for the health of our gut bacteria. We need them so that we are regular, so that we absorb enough water to slow down the absorption of all the food we eat, to give our liver time to metabolize it all. And also, fiber contributes to feeling full and satisfied and dramatically reduces the amount of refined foods that we would want to eat. So that's one of the reasons that quality, probably the main reason that the quality of food determines quantity. If you eat more fiber, number one, we don't actually absorb all the carbohydrates in fiber because we can't digest it. Our bacteria digest it, and a lot of it exits through our back passage. So eating a lot of fiber just means we're taking in far fewer calories but feeling fuller. And fiber also contains a whole lot of wonderful food for our gut bacteria. But also, when we're eating high fiber food, all high fiber foods are so jam-packed full of vitamins and minerals. So we're not going to be craving more food because we haven't got enough nutrients. One of the reasons people eat more processed food than they need from a caloric point of view is because processed food is nutrient poor. And so you might eat enough calories through processed food, but that amount of calories is not giving you all the vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients that you need, quite apart from the fact that processed food is made addictive. So my advice is, don't worry about how much you're eating if you are fully focused on choosing plant, you know, a mixture of fruit and vegetables. You're cooking everything from scratch. I'm fine, you know, if you like dairy, eat dairy. If you like eggs, eat eggs. If you like meat, eat meat. Once again, the only meats that have been found to be unhealthy the processed meats, you know, the hams and the bacons and beef jerky and all those processed types of meats, unfortunately, because of the additives, because you're not eating pure meat. So the big elephant in the room is, if you live a life where you're just not eating any processed foods, you will be healthy and you will regulate how much you are eating. So that's part of the answer to the, what do I do if I feel overwhelmed? The other answer to that question is, if you're going through neuroslimming, simply address one mission at a time and one step within each mission at a time. Don't be in a rush to get to the end. You know, we are actually happiest when we are striving towards meaningful goals, not when we get to the end. And particularly when it comes to body weight, people say it's an anticlimax after they reach their ideal body weight, because then nobody tells them how fabulous they look anymore, because they've been looking fabulous for a while now. And now it's about maintaining, and that just doesn't give us the same kick as working towards that goal. So that's why we need to make healthy choices intrinsically rewarding, and keep reminding us that it is a victory every time you have a day and you've made healthy choices. So make your goal being on mission, not attaining the end result, because that is the goal, to stay on mission for the rest of your life. Okay, and the other thing, the other half of the equation obviously is physical exercise. Just start small and build up. And you know, my favorite is doing those 3 sits, sprint interval training, 3 times a day, 30 seconds before each meal. Just make it a habit. And if you can't go full on, doesn't matter. Just do 30 seconds of light running up and down, and build up, make it more and more intense with time. And then the key to physical exercise is finding something you enjoy. And now is your opportunity to explore all the online options. I know Daniela Ackery, for those who did the retreat with her, offers some online programs. Second Nature Fitness is her website, or just Google Daniela Ackery. She doesn't know, I didn't plan on making this plug, but I just know she's doing it, and there are a whole lot of people doing it. So go online, find stuff that you enjoy. Even physical, you know, housework, climbing up and down stairs and ladders, you know, just if you've got stairs in your house, run up and down them. Put on music and just dance around your house. The key to physical exercise is to enjoy it, because if you're not enjoying it, the cortisol you produce actually erodes some of the benefits, certainly to your brain, and you won't sustain it. Okay. Next question was, how do I read food labels? Now, I'm going to be facetious and say, choose food that doesn't have labels, because that is what is intrinsically food. If food has a label, likelihood it is just not going to be, it's going to be processed, and it's going to have something in it that we don't want in our bodies. However, it's not always possible. I will give you, I was so excited. I couldn't believe when I finally found tuna in olive oil. I mean, tuna in spring water is fine, but tuna in pure olive oil, not in olive oil blend. All this has in it, so I have to take my glasses off to read, is yellowfin tuna, olive oil, water, salt. It's the only, and it's, you know, Woolworths home brand. This is the only tuna or tuna in spring water that I will buy, because be very careful. The first rule of reading food labels is completely and utterly ignore the front, and especially ignore the health star rating. This one happens to be 4.5 and they've got it right, but most food star ratings are complete nonsense. So ignore food star ratings, ignore all the low sugar, low fat, low salt, this is really healthy, this will give you all the energy in the world, ads on the front of any packet. Absolutely and utterly ignore the front of packets of food, because it's all marketing, and most of it is really, it's outright lies, and I really don't know how they get away with it. Let me give you an example of a more complex thing that people often want to eat, and how to read the food label. Ignore the front. Even though it says low sugar granola, if it's more than 3% sugar, that is not the definition of low sugar. Again, I don't know how they got away with it. However, 5% is still better than a lot of the mueslis and granolas out there. But the message here is ignore the front, go straight to the back, ignore all the beautiful stuff about, you know, Jordan's family having come up with this product. Ignore all the hype except the nutrition information panel, that little box with all the numbers. So look at that and look at the actual ingredients. So I'm going to read out the ingredients here and then we'll go and I'll go good, bad, good, bad. Okay. Ingredients, whole grain oat flakes, good, because it's got to say, you know, whole grain. Barley flakes, good. Chicory root fiber, good. Sliced and whole almonds, good. Sunflower oil, not good. It does depend whether it's the high oleic sunflower oil, which would be good. This doesn't specify, which tells me it probably isn't the high oleic sunflower oil, because if it is the high oleic sunflower oil, they will show off about it and have it splattered all over the packet. And I'll get back to sunflower oil in a moment. Freeze-dried sliced cherries. If they're whole cherries, that's not too bad. I don't like the fact that they're dried because they're concentrated sugar, but you could do a lot worse. Desiccated coconut, fine. Sunflower seeds, fine. Natural flavoring, I don't know. I don't know what that means. So there are two questionable things here, the sunflower oil and natural flavoring. What's wrong with sunflower oil? And then I'll get back to the numbers down the bottom. Sunflower oil is what's labeled as a vegetable oil. Now, there are no such things as vegetable oils. And all those things that we were taught in medical school, get everyone to eat vegetable oils, the polyunsaturated vegetable oils, we got that completely wrong. Vegetable oils do not exist. Anything that calls itself a vegetable oil is a highly processed seed oil. For instance, sunflower oil, it's seed oil. Safflower oil, canola oil, which is rapeseed oil, rice bran oil, which is the seed oil, corn oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, they are all seed oils. What's wrong with them? They are very high in omega-6 fatty acids, which cause inflammation throughout the body. Now, you will hear we must eat omega-6 fatty acids because they are essential to our diet. They are, but we are eating 10 to 20 times more omega-6 than we need, which means we're all in a state of inflammation. And if you think about it this way, so you're going to go, oh, does that mean sunflower seeds are bad and, you know, all pumpkin seeds are bad? No. Seeds are to oil what fruit is to fruit juice. Fruit is fantastic because it contains rich in soluble and insoluble fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. So eat all the fruit you like because you won't be able to overeat fruit. You'll get a sore stomach, you'll get diarrhea, and you'll stop when you feel really bloated, and you'll learn your lesson as to how much fruit you can eat. But when it comes to a juice, you've removed the fiber. Even if it's one of those bullet things that retains the fiber, it pulverizes the insoluble fiber, so you don't get the slowing down of the absorption that you should get. So that's why fruit juices are a very highly concentrated form of sugar, regardless of the form you take them in. But a little bit isn't going to kill you by any stretch of the imagination if everything else in your diet is a whole food. Seeds, similarly, are rich in phytonutrients and fiber. So, and you're not going to sit there eating bucket loads of sunflower seeds. You're going to sprinkle them on your salad. So eating seeds whole, sprinkled in your salad or baked in your home-baked bread, that's fine. But eating them as oils is not fine, especially if you heat them. The last thing you want to do is heat your omega-6 oils because they convert into toxic aldehydes, which are carcinogenic. And one of the reasons we have so much cancer is too much omega-6 fatty acids. Now, the reason people aren't jumping up and down about this is because it doesn't kill you straight away. It kills you over the course of decades, just like cigarettes do. So the problem is all processed foods with any oil in them is going to be polyunsaturated omega-6 oils. And they're going to have polyunsaturated splattered on the front and the back as though it were a good thing. And it's not a good thing. It's only a good thing if it's omega-3, which it won't be, because omega-3 is too expensive. All right, getting back to this nutrition panel. What do you want to look at? Protein, it's a good thing. So you want more protein. Fat, they've broken it down. Saturated fat is not a bad thing. We were taught it was in medical school. We now realize that it doesn't actually contribute to poor health. I'm not saying eat bucket loads of it, but in the quantities that you would eat in a piece of meat or in a whole food, it's not going to harm you. Trans fats, you want 0. This has 0.1, less than 0.1 grams. Not ideal, but it's not very much. Polyunsaturated, unfortunately, they don't break it up. 1.4 grams. You can assume that's all omega-6. And I wouldn't want you to have more than 3 grams of omega-6 a day. So this is already half your daily dose of omega-6. Monounsaturated, that's your olive oil. We all love mono. Nobody argues the fact that olive oil is great. And olive oil, by the way, is not a seed oil, it's a fruit oil. So monounsaturated fats is a good thing. Then your carbohydrates are broken down into carbohydrates, 28 grams, and sugars, which are 2.2 grams per serving. What I'm more interested in is the sugars per 100 grams, and it says 4.8 grams. Now, for that to really legitimately call itself low sugar, it would need to be less than 3 grams. But as I said, you could do a hell of a lot worse for a product like this. And dietary fiber, 7.4 grams per 100 grams, 3.3 grams per serving, which is 45 grams, which is a decent sized serving. That's not bad. So the fiber offsets a bit of the sugar and the carbohydrate. There we go. Reading food labels. I hope that's helped. And by the way, after this webinar, please give me feedback, or even during, and let me know if something wasn't clear, or if you want me to explain something, you know, in writing after this webinar. Okay. Another question was updates on the food industry and how we are being trapped and engaged by sneaky marketing. I'm afraid I've got nothing good to say about the food industry. They are about making money and about making us eat more. So just don't believe a word. And the biggest advice I can give you in terms of how to handle all the marketing that we're inundated with is swap the word treat for toxin. Every time you hear the word treat in relation to a processed food, any packaged or processed food, whenever you hear the word treat, think toxin, because it will be. Because it will have either refined sugar in it, it will have fiber taken out of it, and it'll have an omega-6 fatty acid in it, without a doubt. Whether it's biscuits, whether it's chips, whether it's cakes, I'm not talking the ones you make at home, I'm talking anything that you buy. Or anything that you buy at a shop, like a home-baked muffin from a cafe will be full of vegetable oil as well. And unfortunately, if you eat out, even if it's a healthy cafe, 99% guarantee they will use an omega-6 oil to cook the food. So if you eat out, you're eating omega-6. And this is, I know it's depressing, because it means, okay, so you're telling me to avoid all processed food and to avoid eating out. If you want to be 100% healthy, yes. However, you can also ask your local cafe, what do they use for oils? You can also tell them, would you mind grilling my whatever it is in olive oil or butter or lard or coconut oil, and see if they've got them. You can't guarantee that they will, but it's at least if more people start asking, we might get that option. So that's what I have to say. The more you can get into the habit of making your own foods from scratch, the healthier you will be. And things like salad dressings, just throw together olive oil and balsamic vinegar or lemon juice and, you know, a little bit of macadamia nut oil. Nut oils are something like macadamia nut oil or avocado oil. They're also healthy oils. The avocado has a lot of monounsaturated as well. Slowly but surely, so that you don't feel overwhelmed, tackle one processed food in your cupboard at a time. Sort of read the back and see, eliminate the ones with the highest sugar and the highest omega-6 polyunsaturated oils first, and work your way through, seeing how you can substitute for healthier things that you can make at home. And if you've got questions on that, ask me, you know, how you can substitute salad dressings and sauces and things at home. Okay. Then I had a question about how do I manage borderline high cholesterol with diet and exercise? The answer is this, and then there was another question, similarly, how do I manage inflammation, insulin resistance, arthritis, fatigue, diverticulitis, digestive issues? The answer is the same and in this order. 1, reduce sugar and keep it to less than, ideally 6 teaspoons a day if you're a woman, ideally less than 8 if you're a man, and the less the better, which means less than 4 grams of sugar a day. And you'll know that now from reading the back of the pack, how many grams of sugar. Sorry, less than 1 teaspoon. Sorry about that. Let me backtrack. 1 teaspoon is 4 grams. So for a woman, 6 times 4, less than 24 grams of sugar a day. And for a man, 8 times 4, less than 32 grams of sugar a day. But as I said, the less the better. So reduce your sugar, reduce your alcohol. The guidelines are now no more than 1 standard drink a day for everybody, male or female. It used to be men can get away with 2 a day, women can get away with 1.5 a day. The more we learn about alcohol, and the alcohol companies don't want you to know this, and there's a whole lot of pseudo-scientific research that's been funded by alcohol companies that'll tell you 2 a day is fine. What's the problem with alcohol? It's a carcinogen, particularly breast cancer. And it increases the load on our liver. It also increases inflammation in our body, and it's a source of unnecessary calories, and it leads to deposition of fat around our abdomen. So I'm not saying you can have to be a total teetotaler, but really 1 glass a day is the safe upper limit. So I'm talking ideal world. And so as not to feel overwhelmed, every little bit less of that you have, the healthier you will be. You don't have to eliminate everything at once. It's moving along a spectrum, you know, from unhealthy to ideal. Eliminate vegetable oils. So certainly don't cook with them, which I suspect none of you are, but try and eliminate them in the processed foods that you buy. Eat more fiber. And that just simply means more fruit, more vegetables, probably more vegetables first, more fruit second. And if you're buying fiber supplements, remember, no supplements have insoluble fiber. They can't make it. Supplements only have soluble fiber. So one way or another, we need plant food. And so this is all answering the question, how do I manage cholesterol and inflammatory diseases and gut problems? The answer is the same for all of them. Reduce sugar, reduce alcohol, reduce vegetable oils, eat more fiber, and move every day. I know it's a boring message, but movement does mean movement. Move in any way you can, which I mentioned earlier. Okay. How are we doing? Am I talking too fast? Are we getting the answers that we want? Yes? No? Okay, then I'm going to run through some of the questions that I've had on the side, but I'll just answer the questions that were emailed to me first. Okay. Does intermittent fasting work? The short answer is, well, I've got to ask 2 questions. What do you mean by intermittent fasting, and what do you mean by work? So, intermittent fasting, I'm going to call it time-restricted eating. And by work, I'm simply going to use that to mean, does intermittent fasting, A, make me healthier, B, make my brain work better, and C, help me shed excess body fat around my abdomen, which is where I want to shed it? And the short answer is Yes, to all three. Why? And how do you do it? Do I do the 5-2? Do I do the 16-8? And what do all those numbers mean? The bottom line is we're still doing a lot of research, and any time you have a gap between your meals is a good thing. But remember, mission one, eat when you're hungry, don't eat when you're not, is still sort of the overarching message. But let's start with the easiest way to implement intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding into your life. And that is to leave the gap between dinner and breakfast as long as you possibly can. It takes at least 12 hours to flick what's known as your metabolic switch, so that you go from burning carbohydrates to burning fat. So you'll get into serious shedding excess body fat only after you've at least left 12 hours between dinner and breakfast. So this is a habit that is quite easy to get into. Start with, if at this point in time you're only leaving 8 hours between, say whatever it is, you're a shift worker or whatever, your last meal is at 10 p.m. and you're up again, at 6 a.m. and you're hungry when you wake up, stretch it by a little bit. Stretch it by half an hour a week. Go from 8 to 8.5 hours. Just, eat a little bit earlier in the evening, eat a little bit later in the morning. Try and stretch it out as much as you can. So go from 8 to 9 to 12 to 13 to 14 to 16 hours. I find 16 hours difficult just from a lifestyle point of view, but I do it sometimes. So 16 hours sometimes is a fantastic thing if you can manage it throughout, even just once a month. The bottom line is the more often you can lengthen that stretch between dinner and breakfast, the healthier you will be. It is the best way to detoxify your brain and eliminate amyloid and other toxic chemicals that build up in our brains. So aim for 12 hours a day, 12 hours of not eating a day, and stretch that to 16 hours if you can. That's the first thing. And let me just say that when they do this experiment on mice and they restrict their feeding to 8 hours and they feed them junk versus they allow them to eat the exact same junk over 12 or longer hours a day, the mice that eat the junk in fewer hours, even if it's exactly the same food in exactly the same amounts, they gain less body fat. Go figure. And it's just about the effect on our insulin and our metabolism. We don't store as much of the food as body fat. We eliminate more of it if we concentrate, we don't spread it out over a longer period of time. So that's one way of practicing intermittent fasting. The second way is to have only 2 or 3 meals a day and to leave, at least a 5-6 hour gap between meals. And so you have nothing except water between meals, so 5 to 6 hours. So you can still have, 3 meals a day with 5 hours between and have your 12 hours. Or another way is 1 or 2 days a week, you eat very few calories if that fits in with your lifestyle. And this is the 5-2 diet started by Michael Mosley. And that 5-2, 5 days a week, you eat whatever you want, however much you want. And 2 days a week, you're restricted to 500 calories a day for a woman, 600 calories a day for a man, which is not a lot of calories. And you can eat that in 1 or 2 meals. If that fits in with your lifestyle, go right ahead and do it. But it is arbitrary. You can do 6-1. 1 day a week, you eat half the calories that you usually eat. It really doesn't matter. Because we haven't, when I say that, it might matter, but we haven't got the science to back up the ideal way. The point is not to be eating grazing throughout the day. That's one of the worst pieces of advice we ever gave people, because if you're grazing throughout the day, you are constantly pumping out insulin. The more often you pump out insulin, the more likely you are to get diabetes. Now, I had a question too. What if I eat 3 good meals a day, but I really, really get hungry in the afternoon. Should I snack or not snack if I'm hungry? If you're hungry, yes. I don't want you to practice restraint, because ultimately it won't last. Have a handful of nuts. Have a big glass of water and a handful of nuts. Have a piece of high fiber fruit. Have some celery sticks, have some carrot, have some homemade hummus, chickpeas. So if you are really, really hungry, snack, but I would prefer you to examine what you're eating and why you're not lasting that 5 hours. Now, if you're doing a lot of manual work, expending a lot of calories, fitness trainer, you might need that. Most of us don't. All right, I know we are now actually at time, but I just want, if you're happy, if you need to go. But I've only got a few questions left that I think I'd really like to address now, because it's another big question. So maybe give me another 5 minutes and then I'll look at the side questions and then we'll wrap up. But if you need to go, remember you'll get this as a recording. Now, when I asked the question, how do you engage in non-hungry eating and what are your triggers? 100% of the people who not everyone answered that question, but 100% of people who answered that question said yes, they engage in non-hungry eating. And I just think it's ubiquitous. I don't think there's a person on the planet, maybe very few, that don't engage in non-hungry eating sometimes. And I will just read you back everybody's triggers because they're universal. The top one was managing unwanted emotions, whether that's depression or sadness or frustration or anxiety, stress, boredom, tiredness, habit, procrastination, needing a break from work, staying up too late, propping myself up. To feel a sense of control, rebelling. It's a way of everything else, everyone's telling me what to do all day. I'm not letting anyone tell me what I can and can't eat. So it's a bit of a rebellious thing. Social eating, that's another non-hungry eating. Seeing other people treat themselves with food, so then feeling like doing the same. Just needing that super easy instant gratification, just wanting the taste of food, and just not liking that really uncomfortable feeling of the craving. So there are several ways to tackle this, and it depends on what the trigger is, but the number one way, if it's an emotional trigger, if it's an emotion that you're trying to run away with, the only definitive way is to sit there and feel the feeling. Sit there, you're not resisting it. You're not talking yourself out of it. You are just saying, geez, I hate this feeling, but I'm just going to let myself feel it. And you might even shake, and you might even cry, and you might even just lie there feeling comatose, but just feeling that feeling until it goes away. And if you're stuck at home, this is an ideal time to be feeling your feelings. If you don't want to do that, the other option is breaking that habit of reaching for food by bringing to mind the most pleasant emotional memory you can think of. So I always say, think of your honeymoon or your first kiss or holding your baby. And I'm assuming that honeymoons and first kisses were pleasant experiences for most people. So it's just really daydream about something that makes you feel fantastic, or daydream about the award you received, or just achieving some fabulous goal. So it's utilizing your mind to give you the pleasure that you were hoping the food would give you. And if it's boredom or procrastination, then what else could you do? But list this before it strikes. So have a list for yourself. Next time I get bored and want to reach for food and want instant gratification, what else could I do? Do you know what I discovered recently? Leanne Moriarty. Oh my God, I love her books. Now, I haven't read fiction in a long time, long story about what brought me back into fiction. But oh my God, if I want a quick fix, I'll read read a chapter of one of her books, because for me, reading a novel is an indulgence, because I've got so much other stuff I should be reading or writing or planning or preparing. So for me, it's a real indulgence reading a novel that I don't have to read. So it's almost like reading, Enid Blyton when I should have been doing my homework. That's just a personal quirk of mine. But can you find something like that for you that you can, that's a guilty pleasure, that really isn't. Like, hello, reading a novel, listening to a piece of music, playing a video game, scrolling through stupid memes. It doesn't matter. Anything is better, anything that will break that habit of immediately reaching for food. Ringing a friend, ringing somebody that you kept in touch with during the NeuroSlimming retreat and saying, hey, you're my go-to person whenever I feel like, reaching for food for comfort. Let's just have a chat. So non-hungry eating, that is the best way. You either find an alternative, you bring to mind something pleasant, or you sit there with the feeling. Or, of course, my favorite of all, having a sit, just getting up, running fast on the spot, running up and down the stairs in your house, tidying doing some decluttering, doing something really active. And the final question that I will answer today, I'm struggling with self-discipline. How do I tackle that? Well, short answer, the goal is to take self-discipline out of the equation. The goal is that the intrinsic reward of making the healthy choice is greater than any self-discipline required. And the big picture drives you so that you don't have to engage in self-discipline. I might unpack that more next time, but I'm conscious of the time. So let me go back and read a few of the questions because I was focusing on answering the questions. Okay, what about sesame oil? It is a seed oil. And okay, two things about sesame oil. It's delicious. I do have a bottle at home. I will never ever cook with it though. And because it's such a strong flavor, you only need, like, honestly, less than my thumbnail amount of sesame oil to bring out the flavor. So don't cook with it, but if you want it for flat, because it burns really quickly and it'll convert to a toxic aldehyde. But because it's such a small amount, if you really love it, just put a drop in. Literally a drop into a dip, a homemade dip, is almost overpowering. So it's not ideal. I will send you an email with a little bit of a more breakdown. I'll look at the numbers, what percentage of, because no oil is pure omega-6 or pure omega-3 or very few things, or pure monounsaturated. Most oils are a mixture of all of them. So I'll send you down the breakdown for sesame oil. Okay. I'm postmenopausal, sitting 10 kilograms over where I'd like to be. Have been trying for a few years by various to reduce that number. Menopause is an issue in itself, so I might tackle that as a subject on its own. If you can park that for next month, but I will send you something in between to keep you going. Part 2, weight doesn't want to come off. I'm exercising more than ever. Shift worker. Let me answer that. That's a big, number one, if you are doing your best and if you are making healthy choices, that's the important thing, regardless of what your weight is doing. Secondly, patience. Number one, judge yourself. Don't judge yourself. But what I'm trying to say is the important thing is that you are exercising. Regardless of if you never lose a gram, if you never shed a gram of body fat, the fact that you're exercising every day is the best thing you can do for your health. The second thing is the fact that you are making healthy choices is the best thing you can do. I'm wondering whether maybe there's just a few tweaks you can make in there. Maybe if you swap out, maybe there's a few hidden inflammatory vegetable oils that you're eating, maybe. Because often we don't even realize, which is why read the back of the pack. And if there's any polyunsaturated oil in what you're eating, it's bound to be omega-6, so try and eliminate that. But I will address that in more detail at the next webinar, definitely. Oh yes, good question. During the 12-hour fast overnight, does this include milk in tea? It does. The overnight fast, the only things that constitute fasting that you are allowed to have, and I'm not making the rules, it's just you'll release insulin and it'll break the fast. The only things that won't break the fast are water, black tea, green tea, black coffee. That's it. even your herbal teas, because some of them have a sweetness about them, some of them will trigger insulin release. Artificial sweeteners, stevia, will still trigger the insulin release. Milk is definitely a food. So unfortunately, if you have that morning latte, which I do love, it will break the fast. So I delay that morning latte, you know, until I really, really can't not have it, as in really, really want it. So yes, the overnight fast, only water, black tea, green tea, black coffee. Sit with the uncomfortable, yes. It's harder when you're around the kitchen more and not as busy. Absolutely. So what is it that you can, what's something that really will excite you? What's a goal that you can specifically take up while you're at home? Have you always wanted to learn a particular hobby, language, read something? What is it that you could do while stuck at home and just having to spend more time at home? Origami. It's just something I think is fun. So, you know, whatever it happens to be, you can actually play remote board games. You can play videos online. You're probably all better versed than me at knowing what's available online as well. But yeah, the goal here is find an at-home hobby that you get totally absorbed in. Try reading Liane Moriarty's novels. You'll get hooked. She's written, that'll keep you going in isolation for a while. I couldn't put it down. It was making me stay up late. Okay. How long does it take eating healthy to reduce chronic inflammation? Oh, that really depends. You'll start to get immediate benefits even if they're not measurable. So the answer is you'll start to get immediate benefits, but you might not be able to measure them for quite some time, weeks, months, and the benefits will continue for as long as you continue. So how long is a piece of string? Unfortunately, but I will see if I can get some more accurate answers to that, you know, some more better numbers to that. My biggest take out of this session is stop grazing. This will be my challenge for this week. Great. And I have a puzzle going. Yes. So when I head to the, yes, I've forgotten. That's what I used to have with Dad, puzzles. And it used to absorb me like I've been here for half an hour. Well done, Melissa, indeed. Okay. I think we've well gone over time. Thank you so much for staying on board. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your patience. So thank you for your questions before and answer. Can I just have a little icon? How many found this useful? Thumbs up, or there's something down the bottom where you can do a thumbs up or a wave or a physical to let me know if this has answered your questions and if you're happy with the webinar. Terrific. Well, as I said, I'm thrilled that you've all joined. Craig will package the recording and we'll email it out to you over the next 48 hours. I'll send you an email also asking for feedback. Was it too long? Did I talk too much? Did you want more interaction? Did you want more different questions answered? And if you've already got questions for the next one, send them to me. And I will also send you a bit of an email answering a few of the other questions as well. Have I missed some questions? I think I have missed a few, but anyway, it's been wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. And just one day at a time, one healthy choice at a time.
Thanks, folks. That's it. We'll finish the recording now. And thank you, Helena. Another good webinar and some great information. So we'll get that recording out to you in the next 48 hours, as Helena said. Enjoy. Take care.